CBS News Brief. A bill passed by Congress awaits President Trump's signature for the full release of Epstein files by the Justice Department. CBS's Robert Costa.
There's a real belief among Democrats at Capitol Hill that this Justice Department is too close to President Trump and just won't do enough in terms of disclosure.
Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers resigns from a company board after the recent release of emails he exchanged with Epstein. CBS's Michael Wallace reports.
OpenAI's board says it respects Summers' decision. Summers said Monday he would step back from his public commitments but continue to teach economics at Harvard.
Summers is not accused of illegal conduct. A study in The Lancet warns of the dangers of ultra-processed foods. CBS medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder says those are foods that often have more than 5 ingredients and most that you cannot pronounce.
We see an increased risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, depression, and even early death.
CBS News Brief, I'm Jennifer Kuiper.
Whether it's a cough, a fever, or something you can't quite name, MMC Now makes care easy. Walk right in, get seen quickly, and your visit connects directly to your MMC doctor. Care you trust, with providers you know, with digital check-in and multiple locations around town. MMC Now is here when you need us.
Murfreesboro Medical Clinic.
It's the most magical day of the year, and you can watch it all live. Big G TV is where Christmas comes to life with coverage of the Murfreesboro Parade, Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. Brought to you by Kenneth Barrett for Sheriff, Middle Tennessee Electric, Farm Bureau Insurance, and Woodfin Funeral Chapels. See every float, every smile, and the moment Santa arrives on Big G TV. Streaming at wgnsradio.com/parade.
$14.50 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome into the Roundtable here on WGNS on this Wednesday morning. Glad to have you with us. Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, and the Blue Raider Network. And glad to have you with us on this day because we bring back a friend of the show who has been with us now, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 times, somewhere like that. But always glad to have Davis Nolan in, the recently retired meteorologist from Channel 2, WKRN. And I guess, first of all, Davis, how have you adjusted to not having a schedule? Most of my retired friends are busier once they retire than before they are. So give us the lowdown.
Well, so far, yes, just like your friends, I have been busier, really, because I had so many things I had to catch up on. And, I've got some obligations outside of town. My wife is Japanese, and she's in Japan right now with her elderly mother. So we need to take care of her, and I maybe need to go over there soon. And I've been down to see my brother twice. Hope to go see him again soon to help him out with his house. His wife had passed away several years ago. So I got a lot of family obligations I'm trying to take care of. And I caught up with I had parts of my backyard that never got mowed for 2 years. Nobody could see that part, but I knew it was there. It was like knee high. It's finally done, so I've been busy, and I get up every morning. I still look at the weather. And the first thing I do is I still have WKRN's let me keep my WKRN Davis Nolan Facebook page. So the first thing I'll do is I post on Twitter as well as my WKRN Facebook page and my Instagram account, something about the weather, mostly every day. And I can do it anytime I want, or not do it if I don't want, which is great. And Titans Radio is letting me give them a little audio forecast. They play back right before each game on Sunday. So that keeps me busy looking at the weather all week long for that. And so I've been busy, which is good, because I'm told if you're retired, you're not busy, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, and you have always been when our regular guy has been on a cruise or something, you've been very good to jump in there and help us out as well. I just thought of this, that we could put together a retired weather forecasters club in Nashville with you and Bree Smith and have Ron House. Even bring in Charlie Neese, bring him out of his real estate career, and and just have quite a club there.
Yeah, we really could. We always said, Charlie's making more money probably than he was in TV.
Exactly. Speaking of family stuff, one of the things I have noticed since you retired is your lovely daughter has gotten you more active on TikTok. So
Yeah.
I mean, you've always been active on Facebook and
Right.
Instagram and things like that, but she's gotten you in on TikTok. And what has that experience been like for you?
Well, it's been sort of fun because, I had, when I was working with Channel 2, I had my hands full with, all the social media we do there. And I had nothing against TikTok, but it's just like, and she was very active. She has 600,000 followers on TikTok with her singing. And she's very active there. And so when I retired, she said, why don't you do a few things on TikTok? We don't have to do like the day-to-day weather forecasting, but something fun when you can find it. And occasionally, if like when we had the cold snap come the other day and the snow flurries the other day, we did a little weather thing there too. And then she's in Japan right now with my wife, so she had to teach me how to do it myself, which I have done. It's not rocket science, but there's still a lot to learn. But it's been quite an experience, and it's been quite a quite a public response. I'm surprised there's that many people, that, they were glad to see me there. And so I'm trying to have some fun there as well.
I've got to get, I've got a TikTok account and I've got, I don't know, somewhere just under 1,000 followers. I follow more people than get followed, but what's kind of amazing is, and I've got to get myself mentally trained for that as well, because in my real estate business, obviously, the more you can get out there, the better, and all of that. I've got to get myself organized over the winter, and this is a good time to do it when real estate slows down a little bit. But if I put something out on Facebook, I'll get whatever it gets. If I put that same video on TikTok, it'll get like 1,000 views, and it's kind of amazing.
Enemies are relentless.
And
can you outsmart them,
like
or are we
from
going full charge? What's your plan
wider
here?
Geographic area. I don't understand all the algorithms and all that go with it, but it sure does get out there.
Yeah, she's explained some of these algorithms for me before, because she actually, when she was when my daughter, I'm talking about Amanda, when she was in college at Vanderbilt, she interned with TikTok, and at that time she had like 500,000 followers for singing, and she applied for an internship, and of course, it was in COVID, and so my wife and I would listen in on because she was at home, and we'd listen in on these things, and they had Delta Airlines and the Addams Family movie and Wheel of Fortune with the Stars, all listening to this college junior telling them a good way to make their product more visible on TikTok, and her creativity, and that's so she got hired by TikTok. And right out of school, went out to Los Angeles. They put her in the creative services department, which I told her this is good, because if you end up in sales, you and me would be a failure in sales. We're creative. Both of us are creative, but we'd be a failure in the sales department. That we're not, that's not our game. And so she was in this creative services department out there in Los Angeles and was doing really well with that. Not making a lot of money yet, but doing well enough to make a living. And then they all, TikTok and Google and YouTube and all of them, went through all these layoffs. So she came back home to Nashville. She's got a few clients that she does the same thing for. But she tried to explain to me, I'm getting off the subject, these algorithms. Since she worked for them, she learned a lot about this. And I don't remember it all, but they do things like they find like all the social media companies do this, but they seem to do a bigger job at it, or a better job at it. They sort of find out, okay, what is your niche? What is it that you're, and then they somehow try to couple that with more people that might be interested in that. And if I remember correctly, you might notice like the next day, suddenly there's a surge on something because it ended up being found to go to a certain direction, and they pushed it in that certain direction, and it shows what shows up in people's feeds. They seem to have a way of doing that spreads your thing and spreads it accordingly, I guess. One thing she told me the other day, she said, "Daddy, record your stuff in 4K because TikTok will, you'll get more spreading, shall we call it? I don't know what you call it. If you're okay, so I'm trying to learn how to. It's not much to learn. You just click on the 4K button and it uses up a lot more space.
Well, yeah, and I guess it did. And I'm thinking about that too, because when you choose, it's kind of a good, better, best, and 4K being the best quality. I think, well, that's going to take up more space on my hard drive, like that. But you just got to go back and clean things out. But that's the beauty of when you and I have conversations on this show, is we can go down rabbit trails and do stuff like that. Now, which reminds me, I need to set up and have your daughter on here as a guest sometime and talk about all this kind of stuff, and she could probably help me out with my own TikTok stuff. One of the things that has happened, a kind of an anomaly most recently, and this gives us a really good opportunity to explain it and talk a little bit about it. This past week, the Northern Lights showed up, well into the Southeast. And, growing up, we never thought of being able to see the Northern Lights. But here over the last couple of years, there have been 3 or 4 electromagnetic storms that have allowed us to see that. Kind of what is behind all that?
Well, first of all,
I know it's the government, right?
Well, let's not get into that. There's so many conspiracy theories out there for everything. But we're going into this 11-year cycle. Not that I'm a total expert on space weather, but you've probably heard of this. The sun has these 11-year sunspot cycles, okay? And, we've just gone into one over the last year or so. And sure, we've had these 3 times that we've seen them during the last year. So that shows, it explains that why we're seeing so many already. Now, what it's not explaining is you and me are old enough to remember many, many 11-year cycles.
Right.
I guess I remember about 6 or so of them, maybe going on 7. And of course, I guess I've been living in Tennessee 44 years. So I guess I've been here for 4 of them, maybe, and I remember seeing them, but not as vividly as this, several years back. It's probably the previous 11-year cycle, or maybe previous one. But I know, to explain why we're getting, just because it's an 11-year cycle, why we're getting to see them this far south. And that explains why we've seen it so many times in a shorter period of time, but why they're this far south. I mean, the explanation is obviously these are very strong electromagnetic storms, geomagnetic storms. They're strong, in their, I mean, I look at their little forecast, and I forget what the units are, but, they're forecasting as strong as an 8, which is extremely high, and stuff like that. And so they've been very strong. And of course, the stronger it is, the better chance you have at seeing it farther south. So the 11-year cycle does explain why we're seeing it so much during the last year, 3 times during the last year, but it's not explaining why they were so strong,
Right.
Now maybe I'm sure if we Googled it and looked out there, there's probably some experts that are scientists that work for NASA that probably could explain some of it, to us. And those are some of I have the same question you had. Sure, we're in another 11-year cycle, so we're seeing more of them. But why are we seeing them so far south? Why are they being so strong? But it has been fascinating. And the one thing we all noticed right away, that first one last year, is that you go outside and you faintly see something. But if you take a picture with your phone, it shows up much brighter.
Right.
Exactly why, I'm sure a phone expert could explain that to me. I know obviously if you take a 10-second exposure, it'll be longer, but your phone goes, just like and I was amazed at how much brighter it would look,
yeah, it's much more vivid when people take a picture with their phone.
Right. And I guess our phones are just that much better at sorting out that light amongst a black background. I guess, somebody that's an expert on the phones could maybe explain that to us.
Yeah. And also it seems like this time around, this last week, the colors that we were seeing were much different, because most of the time, if I remember correctly, it seems like it's been, kind of the greens and blues, those kind of colors. It was very vivid red this past week, and I'm not sure what's involved there. And basically, when we think of the aurora borealis, which is the Northern Lights, what are we actually seeing?
Well, we're seeing the interaction of the sun's plasma, shall we say, hitting our electromagnetic field. okay, our magnetic field around the Earth. Of course, that's why our compasses point to north. Right. I got some interesting things to say about that, so remind me about that. So I'll get off the subject. But a lot about that electromagnetic or that magnetic field. But basically, that magnetic field helps shield us from radiation from the sun, very harmful radiation. And if that magnetic field wasn't there, we couldn't be here because we'd all get fried by a lot of ultraviolet light and lots of other spectrums that I wouldn't even know much about. The experts could talk about. So it's something that shields us from a lot of the ultraviolet light, but and so does ozone, by the way. But it helps us. It helps protect us. So anyway, it helps protect us because the plasma these interacts with all these electrons. You get excited, and when I say get excited, they put off this energy which creates the light. Okay, so we're seeing the sun's plasma being ejected by the coronal mass ejection, as they call them, CME, finally hitting our magnetic field, and of course, it shields them around, and you see that interaction being displayed in the northern lights by those electrons putting off that energy and making that light. Now, I'm told the reason we see reds and greens, I remember I was trying to find a graphic the other day and I couldn't find it again, but we're viewing from so far south. Okay, you think about it, for us to see all the way up to the northern latitudes, we're looking pretty far north. And it's sort of our angle that we're looking at it from that creates us seeing the colors that we see. Now, I also read that the oxygen is what helps create those particular colors, but I'm not an expert on it. Those are just the two things that I've observed about it, but it is very interesting. The one thing I'm going to, I don't know how soon you have to go to a commercial break here.
We're getting close to it. Why don't we go ahead and do that now? Okay. We'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll pick it up on the northern lights and the electromagnetic field. Always, this is like Mr. Science here with Davis Nolan today as we're talking all kinds of good stuff. We'll step aside here on the Roundtable and be back with more in just a bit right here on WGNS.
Okay, Chip, give me just 1 second.
Whether it's a cough, a fever, or something you can't quite name, MMC Now makes care easy. Walk right in, get seen quickly, and your visit connects directly to your MMC doctor. Care you trust, with providers you know, with digital check-in and multiple locations around town. MMC Now is here when you need us.
Murfreesboro Medical Clinic.
It's the most magical day of the year, and you can watch it all live. Big G TV is where Christmas comes to life with coverage of the Murfreesboro Parade, Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. Brought to you by Kenneth Barrett for Sheriff, Middle Tennessee Electric, Farm Bureau Insurance, and Woodfin Funeral Chapels. See every float, every smile, and the moment Santa arrives on Big G TV. Streaming at wgnsradio.com/parade.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit firstshottn.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's firstshottn.org.
Insurance should be simple, not complicated. That's why at Rayburn Insurance, Agent Rick Hull cuts through the jargon and helps you understand your options clearly. He's committed to finding the right coverage that fits your unique needs and budget. Their team has been a trusted partner in the community since 1973. Ready to make insurance easy? Get with Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency. He's ready to help you get the protection you deserve.
This is Richard Parton, and I'd like to tell you about Adam's Place. We have been here 8 months, and at this point we have not even turned our stove on. No need. They come in every week and change your linen and clean your house, and it's just like a dream, like being on a cruise every day.
This is Terry Deal. Come tour Adams Place and discover living a dream in your senior years.
Good Neighbor Events is brought to you by America Pest Control, Old National Bank, and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
78 years of local service. That's how many WGNS has been around for you. The lighting of the Rutherford County Christmas tree will be on Friday, December the 5th, 5 o'clock in the evening, on the east side of the historic Rutherford County Courthouse. That's Friday, December 5th, 5 in the evening, on the east side of the Murfreesboro Square. The community sing-along for Handel's Messiah will be at MTSU on Sunday, November 30th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the Wright Music Building. That's Sunday, November 30th. This is the weekend to drop off those turkeys at Greenhouse Ministries. The turkey drop-off is 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening this Friday, and the turkey pickup is this Saturday. You have to have a voucher to pick up the turkeys, and your pickup time is on the voucher. Again, the turkey drop-off at Greenhouse Ministries is this Friday, 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening. For more information, go to greenhousemin.org. Get your events to us at least 2 weeks before they occur. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
We'll see mostly cloudy skies here this afternoon with a high in the mid-70s. For tonight, mostly cloudy and a low around 53. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki from the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center.
Currently, it's 65.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Are you ready to take control of your energy usage and save money? Download the MyMTE app to track your energy consumption, pay your bill, and even report outages right from your phone. It's free and available now in iOS and Android.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable on WGNS. Chip Walters with you, and welcoming back in Davis Nolan, the recently retired meteorologist and weathercaster at WKRN News 2. And Davis, we were talking about the electromagnetic field, and you said you had a couple of things you wanted to bring up about that and remind you about that goes along with the Northern Lights, and so kind of take us down that path a little bit.
Well, our magnetic field is something that's I don't want to say it's unique to Earth, but it's something that not every planet has. Okay, so this is getting off of the Northern Lights a little bit. It's getting on to why we're even here. Okay, as human beings, and how our Earth was able to do things that other planets haven't. Now, granted, obviously, atmospheres and distance from your sun and all these things are obviously a big deal. But come to find out, I did the story on this 3 or 4 years ago. It was fascinating. Okay, NASA put out this big story about showing how Mars used to have these oceans, and it had a map that they showed of what Mars's oceans used to look like, and it was very similar to Earth. I mean, it looked like it was more than 2/3. I don't know. I can't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on that, but it was way more than half, probably more like Earth. Right. There was more ocean than there was land on Mars. Okay. And it also had an atmosphere more than it has today. It still has an atmosphere, but it lost a lot of the things that it had years ago. And what happened to most of its atmosphere in all of those oceans? Because we don't see any oceans on Mars anymore. We do see an ice cap, and they're saying that they see water, that they think there's water underneath the surface of the
Let's hear your strategy,
ground and stuff in spots.
The new rovers they have seem to be getting more and more detailed information.
Yeah, but certainly not an ocean anymore.
Right.
And certainly not. And the NASA scientists, being our age, said To quote Bob Dylan, what happened? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind, the solar wind. Okay, because the sun is constantly putting out a solar wind. Okay, and when we have these CMEs, these coronal mass ejections that create our northern lights, they put out a big punch of it all of a sudden, right? Well, the solar winds constantly on Mars was constantly stripping away molecule by molecule its ocean and its atmosphere. Okay, and not overnight. It might have been millions of or billions. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but it was way in the millions of years, if not billions, that finally Mars's ocean was completely gone, and a lot of its atmosphere that had been around was gone because of that solar wind. Okay, now we have a magnetic field, and it deflects the solar wind. You see the graphics of the solar wind coming in and hitting Earth and sort of going around it, and of course at the poles it's making the northern lights, and and stuff like that. So because we have this strong magnetic field, we survive the solar wind, whereas other planets have not. Other planets that were close enough to a sun to have a water and have an ocean lost it. The only one we know of is Mars. That's the only one we can see from our little solar system. Lord knows what else is out there.
Yeah. I wonder. Is there a reason for that? Is it because of the makeup and the metal core that is in the middle of Earth that makes us different than Saturn or Jupiter or Mars?
That's correct. We have this molten iron nickel core of the Earth. Okay, and it's my understanding it's also moving. Okay, and that movement is what's creating this magnetic field. Okay, and anything in I'm going to get real generalized here, maybe a little bit off the subject, but I remember in physics they told us that if you take a magnetic field, or like two magnets, let's say, and put them next to each other, and then you take an iron rod and you swish that iron rod in between the two magnets, that electric current flow will flow through that rod. Okay, so movement around electromagnetic fields or magnetic fields can create things. Okay, shall we say, just be generalized. So because we have this iron nickel core that's molten, and apparently it's moving. And I hope I've got this all correct because I'm generalizing so much here. And I personally, I'm real good at knowing generalizations without knowing.
Oh, me too.
super specifics about scientific things. I'll know people ask me and I could give them a good answer. But if you keep asking me more and more and more, I say, well, this is something we need to ask the experts because that's getting beyond my knowledge. But basically, that magnetic field is, if it wasn't there, we wouldn't be here. And I think Mars has had one at one time, but it wasn't as strong. Other planets have a magnetic field, but nobody has one, at least on our solar system, that's like ours. Okay.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. What you're saying is that because of that magnetic field, that allows for the conditions that sustain life to actually remain here.
Exactly. We're not losing our water molecule by molecule, and we're not losing our air molecule by molecule due to the solar wind. And it makes me wonder, we always say, well, how many planets are out there that are going to be like Earth where they could, have maybe life form? Well, I'm sure there still probably could be a lot, but they're going to need to have that magnetic field. Okay. And who knows, we may find, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day we're digging around in all the soil of Mars and where the water was, you find some amoeba or something that had been there billions of years ago, but it's dead now because there ain't no water left. And but I wouldn't be surprised they haven't found that yet. But of course they haven't had a chance to really get up there and really look hard for those kind of things, So that magnetic field is a amazing thing. Good thing God gave it to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Or we wouldn't be here having this conversation today. And there, I think also going back to our Northern Lights conversation, I think that part of it too ties into what we were talking about with social media, that maybe that the ability to see the Northern Lights has been there on that 11-year cycle like we were talking about. But now because of social media this time around, there's much more ability to take good photos and put them out there. And maybe that has enhanced our own reality, maybe.
It probably has. Yeah. Maybe you and me would have, 20, 30 years ago have known about it or seen it more, if we were looking for it, like these few times we've seen it. If somebody hadn't told me to go outside and look, I wouldn't have been looking, and I might not have noticed it, so you have a good point there. That could be true.
Now, also, speaking of interstellar phenomenon, this past weekend, which is as we record this, did you see anything about a comet that came through? And I saw a lot of social media posts about people saying either, "Hey, what was that?" or "Did you see that?" And I saw some photos out there.
Yeah, well, it was like a couple of weeks ago. I'm like,
okay,
maybe about 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't a comet. It was just a meteorite, and I forget which. This time of the year we have, I don't know whether it's Taurids. Gosh, I have to admit, because we have the Geminids, we have the Taurids. In August we have the famous one. It was one of those, and and whenever we get a big one that's really lights up the sky, we call it a fireball, right?
Right.
So we definitely had a fireball, and everybody has these ring cameras now, or something like a ring camera, and I meant to check mine to see, because it should have at least lit up the sky. I don't know if that'd have been enough to make my camera, come on or not, and I meant to check mine to see, and I forgot to do that, and I forget how far back I can go, but a lot of people, caught it on their ring camera, but it wasn't a comet. It was just a meteorite. It was just we got a nice fireball there, and those happen every once in a while.
Also, the other thing that kind of took TikTok by storm was this thing called H1 Atlas. Have you seen anything about that? It was supposedly had come from a different solar system and came around the sun here in the last couple of weeks, and they were following it, and just different conspiracy people out there saying that it looked like it could have been man-made and all this kind of stuff. You might need to go check that out. That'd be a good rabbit hole to go down.
I'm not real knowledgeable about that. I think I heard something to that effect, but I'm afraid I'm not knowledgeable enough to talk about that. Of course, we have lots of things. We have lots of asteroids that do this, comets as well, comets and asteroids. That have these cycles, and in this day and age with conspiracy theories that get made up by people and even become political on one end or the other. Lord knows what people come up with.
Now, with the asteroids that are and meteorites that come through, there's so many that are flying around. Number one, why do we not get hit more often? And also, do we get hit with small pieces more than we even know?
Well, I mean, every time you see a meteorite, every time you see it go across the sky, that's a small piece. A lot of it the size of dust or the size of a Rice Krispie or something, And we do know that this has happened in the years past. Of course, the well-known theory of the dinosaurs going extinct from an asteroid, that hit somewhere off the Yucatan Peninsula, according to the experts. And there was one during the last maybe 50 years ago, maybe a little more than 50 years ago, that was over Russia, and it wasn't enough to blow the earth up or anything like that, but it flattened that forest. I forget.
Right. Yeah. It left like a 2 mile wide crater.
And then we had the one in Russia. This is only like about 10 years ago that blew up, and all those people saw this bright flash and they went running under the windows to see what it was. And when the sonic boom hit, it crashed the windows back in, and those were fragments, of these same things, but not big enough to be like a species killer, shall we say?
Right.
So it's one of the things that I've always been, it was almost one of my not pet peeves, but I almost I did stories on it when I was at Channel 2. At one time there was some former astronauts that started this. They wanted to be able to send up a satellite that would orbit the sun like Earth does, but not orbit the Earth. Right, like most of our satellites, they say there's a blind spot we can't see everything from. They've pretty much think they've mapped out most of the asteroids that would be big enough to be dangerous to the Earth. They think they've mapped them all out from most directions, but there's a certain direction that they can't see, and we needed something in that direction to start mapping there, because the ironic thing is the one in Russia just about 10 years ago over what is Shablinsk or whatever the name of the town was. I hope I'm saying all this right, because I'm not looking at it on the air, and I hate to be like a reporter and have my facts wrong, That one that we all saw that day, we were supposed to have an asteroid pass within the distance between the moon and Earth. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And it was that day. I was doing stories on that. And I remember CNN that afternoon was going to have live things, where people were going to try to show it on their telescopes or whatever, which was going to be moving awfully fast and all this stuff. And it was going to be happening about 1:00 in the afternoon Central Time, so I was doing stories about it and saying, I forget how big it was, but it was big enough to if it had hit us, it could have been bad,
Right. Yeah.
To what extent, I don't want to try to say, but it would have been bad. Our lives would have not been the same. We might have been in a, nuclear winter type, who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, that afternoon, that was supposed to happen. Well, all of a sudden that morning, my wife comes in and says, did you see this? Did you see this? And I see it over Russia. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. I mean, our thing's not coming till this afternoon, the one we're talking about. And I instantly thought, well, maybe this is like a meteor shower, like one, not a meteor shower, but like one, in the respect that maybe there's other fragments of this same thing that we didn't see, and it came a little earlier than the one that's coming later today. And the scientists came on TV and said, this had absolutely nothing to do with what's coming this afternoon. Totally out of the blue, and we totally had no idea it was coming.
Wow. And then what happened? In the afternoon?
Well, the afternoon one did just what they said it would. It passed within the distance of the Earth and the moon, and everybody talked about it, and it was gone. Yeah. So it had nothing to do with the other one. They said it came from a different direction.
Oh, wow.
So, I hate to quote the Weather Channel, but it could happen tomorrow. It's like, when I was a little kid, and I still do it when I'm an adult, you say your prayers, and God, please take care of grandma and grandpa and daddy and mama, and please don't let an asteroid hit the Earth. There's no Bruce Willis movie. There's no rocket sitting at a launching pad at Cape Canaveral ready to take off and save us if something like that's headed our way. Now, NASA is finally talking about it, okay? If you go to NASA's website and Google, put in their search box, they've been mapping them. They've been doing their best to try to get much knowledge as they can. And they've actually started to put into plans. We and the Japanese, I believe, have sent up ships that have actually gone, or, rocket ships, or I should say spaceships, that actually have gone to an asteroid, okay, and sat there and mapped it and took pictures of it. And I think we blew something up on one to see if we could make it move, if you remember. So
right.
We're taking steps now. The NASA and our government, and hopefully other governments, are now taking steps, at least in the right direction, to where one day, if something like that is spotted, and we do think it's going to hit us, that maybe we can get some action. Okay.
Yeah.
But you really need to have a system in place and ready to go, in my opinion. That's something we all ask our congressmen. They'll all go, oh my God, what crazy question. No, this is scientific fact.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to have a system in place ready to go, and I've heard, some say, you don't want to try to blow one up because it'll become lots of pieces, and then you got 20,000 pieces coming your way. Okay. Or others have said, you want to try to land on it, shoot a little rocket and try to just push it off course. Well, a lot of them are spinning. They said it's very hard to land on something that's spinning around in a circle like this really fast.
Just to flex it. Yeah.
Yeah. Others have said if you know about it far enough in advance, you put up a rocket that just sits there right next to it and just goes right alongside it. Because if you learned about gravity, any two objects, like my glasses and my pen here, are trying to pull each other together. But they can't, because there's so much gravity and things that are so much stronger than that. Gravity pulls it apart. My hand holds it. But if you were in outer space and you let go of my pen and my glasses, they would eventually come together and touch each other, because there'd be a magical gravitational pull between them. The point being, if you could put what they call a gravitational tractor next to the asteroid and just stay with it for like 5 years, you would slowly make it move off. It would slowly have to move a little bit to try to get closer to that thing next to it.
And it would take it off course. And,
just a degree off course when it's billions of miles away might be thousands of miles away when it gets here, So there's lots of theories of how to do this, but nobody's got there's no rocket ship sitting at Cape Kennedy right now, ready to go. And there needs to be. That's just one of my little things, Write your congressman. They'll probably, first they'll think, oh my God, I've got other things to worry about.
Yeah, here you go.
This is one that you need to worry about.
Yeah. All right. Davis Nolan is our guest today on the Roundtable. We're going to step aside. And as this hour flies by, we'll be back with our final segment of the day with Davis right after this. You're listening to the Roundtable and watching on WGNS and Big G TV. All right.
Whether it's a cough, a fever, or something you can't quite name, MMC Now makes care easy. Walk right in, get seen quickly, and your visit connects directly to your MMC doctor. Care you trust, with providers you know, with digital check-in and multiple locations around town. MMC Now is here when you need us.
Murfreesboro Medical Clinic.
It's the most magical day of the year, and you can watch it all live. Big G TV is where Christmas comes to life with coverage of the Murfreesboro Parade, Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. Brought to you by Kenneth Barrett for Sheriff, Middle Tennessee Electric, Farm Bureau Insurance, and Woodfin Funeral Chapels. See every float, every smile, and the moment Santa arrives on Big G TV. Streaming at wgnsradio.com/parade.
This message brought to you by the Central Tennessee Regional Solid Waste Planning Board. Visit recyclerightTN.com for tips, ideas, and locations on where to recycle near you.
Don't be trashy, recycle classy, recycle right, Tennessee.
Recycling isn't just about tossing materials in a bin, it's about knowing which materials are accepted. Go to recyclerightTN.com.
Recycle right, Tennessee.
This is Pastor Nikki Ajapong, lead pastor of Holy Hill Chapel.
Hear our sermons on WGNS Sunday night at 7:30.
Our sermons are loaded with the keys of the kingdom. If you don't have the keys, you'll be stranded.
Visit holyhillchapeltn.org to hear our podcast.
If you're about to pop that big question, then you need to start at Bell Jewelers because we have the rings for you. And I can just see my granddad saying, nothing sparkles like a Bell Jewelers diamond. Hi, this is Trevor Tidwell at Bell Jewelers. We're seeing here at Bell Jewelers a really popular solitaire rings and ovals, radiant, cushion. We have a huge selection of that at Bell Jewelers, so come on in. We're a family business and we're just here to help your family. Bell Jewelers, 821 Northwest Broad across from Toots.
If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Shop local, Farrah Construction Company. I'm Ron Hall. Investing in property can be nerve-wracking. It does not have to be. Farrah Construction offers high-quality craftsmanship, quick response, and attention to detail. Our goal is to keep your expenses low while focusing on our attention on high-quality services. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
In retirement, it's all about income. Your money, making money, and you're not spending down your principal. That's the way we do it at Retirement Income Solutions. So if you're spending down your principal or your money's not making money, keeping you ahead of inflation, check us out today at risolutions.net. risolutions.net. And make sure to join us Saturdays at noon and Sunday afternoons at 1 for Retirement Income Solutions Radio with Nathan Cox and Lindsay Cotter.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Into the Roundtable here on WGNS. Davis Nolan is our guest, and Davis, here we are a week or so before Thanksgiving. We're now truly into the fall of the year, and we have, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 75-degree days. We have had snow flurries. We have had sustained winds of 30 miles an hour. We've had calm days. Those people who are not retired and working in the weather business, is it this time of year, or is it just our area where we can have such extremes during this time of the year?
Well, no, I think it's, this is true everywhere except maybe like some tropical island or something that's down near the equator or something, I mean, you're going to start to see things in the northern hemisphere. Things are on the move because, the jet streams are going to get further and further south, meandering further and further south as we go towards not the equinox, but when we get to December 21st, 22nd, the solstice, the winter solstice, when our Earth is not, the angle of the Earth starts to be to where the southern hemisphere is facing, the Earth now, and we're in our winter, and then we get around to summer, the angle of the Earth is where our hemisphere is facing, I should say, tilted more towards the sun than the southern hemisphere. So when you're in between, your things are on the move, basically. By the way, when the Earth is on a tilt, our axis is on a tilt compared to the plane of our orbit around the sun. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, when it's on one side of the sun, the northern hemisphere is tilted away, the other side is tilted forward. But it stays the same tilt the whole time.
These monsters
it goes around in a circle,
than
so
they look.
you end up
What's your next move to tackle this challenge?
That's where you get winter and summer when you do all that.
We're in between now. We're on the move as we go into the fall, basically.
Yeah, and as we get into the winter, obviously, we get these long-term winter weather projections. Whether it's the Old Farmer's Almanac or whatever it might be, and of course, in this area, we tend to look at woolly worms and persimmon seeds and acorns and stuff like that. How much, in your experience, do the Old Farmer's tails and thick fur on squirrels, whatever it might be, how much of that holds up?
Well, I try to be scientific about things, and I have to admit, it's hard to tell how much that holds up because everybody has a different opinion, and it's like there is no, well, I guess back when you had the lady in Crab Orchard when she was alive, that was like one opinion, I guess. But most people, have so many different opinions about, well, I saw a wasp at this and I think that. And another person says, well, I saw this and I think that. So there's too many opinions, on the side, I'll tell you what, I'll get to that because my daughter getting me on TikTok, I just did a TikTok about that. And, on the scientific side of things, we always try to look at El Nino and La Nina, okay? La Nina, excuse me, El Nino and La Nina, which are water temperatures out in the Pacific. And those water temperatures out in the Pacific tend to not dictate, but they tend to affect the downstream currents on the North American continent. And when we have a very strong El Nino or we have a very strong La Nina, they set up fairly well defined patterns across the United States or North America. Okay. But when we have one that's not very well defined or it's weak, it doesn't do that as well. Okay. And this year we're in a La Nina, which we've been in since last summer, but they're saying is very weak and they expect it to be even be dissipating by December. So, I guess I'd love to share the screen with you, but I guess your viewers can't see we're on the radio.
Well, we do have viewers on YouTube. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to admit, Zoom has changed since the last time I got on here. And when I hover over what I think might be to share the screen, it doesn't say that's share the screen. So I'm scared to click on it, but I could try. Let's see. No,
but with that is now between El Nino and La Nina, it does not necessarily one means we're going to have a milder winter or one means we might have a colder winter.
Yeah, they can. The only thing about it is that even if they say they're going to be a milder winter than normal, and you might hit 10 below that winter on a day or two. Yet after the winter's over, you average the 90 days worth of winter of December, January, and February, and it turns out to be above normal. You go, wow, that wasn't above normal. Geez, it was 10 below back in the, yeah, but if you average you could have it saying it's going to be above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation and have a 10-inch snowfall in the middle of that on December 23rd.
Yeah.
Oh, we had and at the end of the year, if you averaged up all the precipitation, ended up being below normal and the temperatures in above normal, but on that particular day and that particular time, so unfortunately, even if these things turn out to be correct and that forecast turns out to be correct, for example, what I was going to say, I'm scared to share the screen because I'm scared if I click this icon, it's going to take us off the air and I'll ruin your recording. But the outlook from the Weather Service or from the Climate Prediction Center has Middle Tennessee with equal chances of above normal or below normal. Basically from around Murfreesboro northwest, equal chances. From Murfreesboro southwest, about a 10% chance or 10 to 30% chance, I believe it is, if I look at this closely with my glasses on, of a 33 to 40% chance of being above normal. Okay, and as far as
above normal temperature, so chances of being warmer. Is that what you're saying?
But it's in the lightest shade of orange. Like, I'd show this to you on the screen, but I'm scared that icon I click on is going to ruin our recording. But if you see a little orange line slicing through Middle Tennessee, northeast to southwest, goes through about Murfreesboro to Lawrenceburg, let's say, or Waynesboro, and up to, let's say, Fentress County around, Jamestown. And on one side, the left side of that line is equal chances of above normal or below. And on the other side of the line, Murfreesboro's right on it, is a 33 to 40% chance of above normal. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 categories, and it's the lowest category. Okay, so what's it telling us? Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Precip, it's got the northwestern half from around Nashville northwestward in the category 1, 33% above normal precip.
Up towards Paris.
The southeastern half, including Murfreesboro, equal chances of above normal or below normal. So unfortunately, that's not telling us much. Okay. And even if, like I said, even if we had a strong El Nino and a strong La Nina and they had something they could grab onto that was good, even then you could have a major snow and a major cold snap, more than one. You still have an above normal winter with below normal precip. So it's not, unfortunately, that's just the science of it. Now, back to the fun part. And I did this one because I explained them. If you go to TikTok, I have this on there. It's my latest one that I did. Well, I'll take that back. I guess, well, no, it is the latest one I did. Yeah. Because my daughter had to, she wanted to put it on and I let her do it. And I was outside working in my yard a couple of weeks ago, found a woolly worm or a woolly bear caterpillar on my patio. So I took a good picture of him. And basically, if you've seen woolly bear caterpillars, they're black on both ends with an orange stripe in the middle. Okay. And where that in folklore says where that orange stripe is, towards the rear or towards the front, or whether you have a short black or a long black towards the front, or a short black or a long black towards the end, or where that orange is left or right of the guy's head, determines what the winter will be. Well, first of all, it's hard to tell what's the head, what's the tail.
That's right.
I think I figured it out. And the one I had a very short black, a long black in the front. And then it had the orange offset to the back. And then the very tail had a little short black. And according to what a little chart that one of my viewers sent me that I've seen before, the black is indicating the winter, the orange indicating or cold, the orange is indicating mild, and vice versa. Anyway, so the longer black head was meaning we'd start off with a harsh winter. The orange being offset more towards the rear meant that it would transition to a milder than normal winter. And then the short little black on the end meant that we'd end in a harsh. So we'd start with a harsh winter, go to a mild, somewhere midway through, and then stay that way most of it, and then go to a short, harsh end of the winter. I've got another interpretation. Again, now, do I believe all that? No, but it's a lot of fun. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I haven't heard the persimmon seeds yet. I'm sure once we air this, your viewers and I will both, you and I will both get some opinions from people that have looked at the persimmon seeds. And
the persimmon seeds, if you crack them open, and if it is a spoon shape that you see, that means you'll be shoveling snow. If it looks like a fork, that says you're going to have a mild winter. And if the inside of the persimmon seed looks like a knife, that means cutting icy winds. So that's what you need to look for if you split your persimmon seeds here in the next little bit. So those are the telltale signs.
It's a lot of fun to look at all that. But like I said, I never could answer whether there's truth to it all or not, because there's so many different opinions. There's not one opinion,
Yeah.
And when the crab orchard lady, I forget her name now, but she was famous worldwide, or nationwide at least, now she has a daughter, I believe, that still tries to help out with that, but we don't hear about her as much. But anyway, but it's a lot of fun, and I love to look at it every year. And of course, the springtime, what I love is having our winters, when the dogwoods are blooming and we got cold snap, we call it dogwood winter, and then later on, let's say when
blackberry winter and all that.
Yeah. I have a lot of fun with that too.
Yeah, those are fun. Okay, we got about a minute and a half left today. Is there anything harder for a weather forecaster in this market than to predict when in the wintertime we're somewhere from the upper 20s to the upper 30s, and you've got a front coming through and some moisture coming up? Is there anything harder to do than to predict snowfall?
That is indeed, it is the hardest. Okay. And the biggest thing is, I always tell people, how 90% of the time when we have snow, it starts off as rain. Okay. And it ends up changing to snow. Well, just by that nature, you can see, we got a problem here. Okay. Because what if the rain doesn't change over in time? In other words, the cold air or the moisture outruns the cold air, or vice versa. You get more snow than you expected. We always saw it happen the vice versa more, or the other happened where the cold air was too late and the rain moved out and we never got the snow we were predicting. And the models are getting better and better at that. But indeed, as you say, that is the hardest thing to predict. Now, the ironic thing is these last 2 years, we had 2 huge snowfalls, and they started as snow and ended as snow. And boy, was that easy. I mean, I forget how close we were on saying how many inches it would be, but around here, if you say 3 inches or more and you get a bunch of snow, everybody's happy, And I forget what we said. And I think we were pretty close, to what we were saying, but they both started as snow and ended as snow, which made life really easy. We didn't have to say, well, we'll have rain. And then we from Clarksville to Murfreesboro to Winchester. I mean, geez, look at the difference you could have all three going on at one time. Sleet on one, snow and rain all going on at the same time. And we're having to forecast on TV for all these people.
Absolutely.
Boy, it's a mess. And it is indeed the hardest thing. But the models have gotten better and better at that.
Yep. All right. Davis Nolan has been our guest today. It's always fun. We have fun talking about all kinds of different weather and in today's case, celestial phenomenon. And I'm sure we'll be buzzing you back again here real soon, Davis, and hope all goes well, keeps going well with your family. And thanks again for coming on today.
You're quite welcome anytime.
All right, Davis Nolan joining us today. Be sure and join us again next week for another episode of the Wednesday Roundtable here on Big G TV and WGNS. Have a good day, everybody.
Subscribe to Big G TV, local content that matters to Rutherford County.